entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. We are at the lovely Genghis Khan restaurant, Mediterranean cuisine. If you're in the South Tampa area, 3114 West Beta Bay, make sure you stop by, tell them that Edge Business Magazine sent you, and check out their Turkish coffee, which I haven't actually seen before. It looks great, but nonetheless, thank you so much again for being with us today. Make sure you check out the latest issue of Edge Business Magazine. You can subscribe online at edgebusinessmagazine.com. Great information, a lot of articles on leadership and tech and growth and everything very inspiring for all entrepreneurs from just starting out from the university to high-level CEOs. There's a little something for everybody. So again, just so honored to be here today and providing great inspirational stories to you on a weekly basis. You know, Getting the Edge is a great opportunity to highlight and promote small business owners in our community, but it's also a great opportunity to bring in great leaders and not just highlight and promote their business, but we want to share their story. We want to learn from their experiences and their trials and tribulations and their successes. So thanks again for joining us at Getting the Edge today. And we have a great show planned for you. I'm happy to have my very good friend, Edward Valaitis. Thank you so much for being with us today, of Edison Avenue, Mergers and Acquisitions. Did I say that right?
You said it right.
Okay, good.
Valaitis. Yes.
Valaitis.
Yes.
Okay, so Ed and I have known Ed. You've been a part of Edge and around and in the events for years, and for some reason I have always struggled with your last name, so now it's just kind of a joke and I tease him about it. But thank you so much for being here today. You know, as a business owner, one thing that we ultimately always need, or that we hope we need, is mergers and acquisitions, right? Well, tell us a little bit about Edison Avenue and your role in that. And
So we started about 10 years ago, and what we focus on is helping small and mid-sized business owners to successfully exit their companies and maximize their value. So it's really all about helping them create value. So in their growth consulting, so we understand what their company can be worth in the future. So like if their objective is to have their company worth $2 million so they can have enough nest egg to retire, or $10 million, helping them reach that objective and successfully exit.
And so you don't just have an office here in Tampa. You have multiple offices throughout Florida. Is that correct?
Several offices. We have an office down in Naples,
okay,
and then one up in Destin. So we cover the Gulf Coast really well, but we end up working with clients actually across the state and also in the Midwest. So we have clients up in Michigan and Ohio.
So mergers and acquisitions, what all does that include? Because that includes obviously the sale of your business, but it also includes the merging then, I would assume then, of multiple businesses, and also secession. Do you handle some of that?
As it relates to exiting their business and having like a liquidity event where they can cash out their company, what really brought us to this point, to even starting to do this kind of work, was just seeing too many people who have been wonderful entrepreneurs and have built their companies up for over 5, 10, 20, 30 years, and then to not exit successfully. And that could take many forms, but the best way to share is I'll just share a brief story. There is a professional service company that did various financially related transaction work, and they had the owner had contracted this severe illness, and so it was some exotic bug that got into him, and so 2 years he struggled.
An exotic bug?
Yeah, something when he was doing foreign travel, and,
okay,
and he caught something, and so
oh, no.
So for 2 years he was struggling on and off. His health was going up and down, and
did they know then what was wrong with him?
They couldn't figure out what exactly he had contracted. It was so unusual and so exotic. That's why it's exotic.
Right, I guess so.
So in
hence
that
the
case,
word exotic. Got it.
He struggled. Unfortunately, he struggled, and ended up having some major surgery near the end. They thought he might have the cure to it, and didn't work. And then he ended up passing. And the sad part was he left the company. Well, his wife and their children, all of a sudden it was an immediate crisis. The company had to be sold because he wasn't there to operate it. So he relied on his attorney and his CPA to handle it with his wife. They ended up selling it to a key employee, and unfortunately, they didn't properly value the company, so they had undervalued what it was really worth, and then they made another strategic mistake. And there's something called working capital that when you sell a business, you also sell the working capital part of it, which is money to pay the bills day to day, pay the salaries, pay the all the various bills. Well, they ended up forgetting to take all the rest of the cash out of the business checking and savings account when they sold the company. So the new owner, who was this employee previously, he paid for half the price of the company out of the checking account of the money that was really owned the wife's money effectively, and ended up paying half the business with that. And then 3 years later, he sold the company for 7 times what he paid for it and retired before he was 40. So it was a travesty to the family, to the wife, to their children, to their legacy. He built this great company, and it was all given away because it was poorly executed. He needed good advice, and people are familiar with transactions and exit work, and he didn't have it.
Well, and there's a lot to think of. I remember just being in real estate for so many years, over a decade, and anybody can help you sell your home, but there are so many problems and things that can go wrong. You're best to have an expert, somebody, and I can only imagine, and that is why there's such a need for processes and systems, and I guess really a plan in case something like this happens. And I don't know, we're in year 6 now of Edge, but you hear a lot of people talk about exit strategy, and I hear different situations or opinions, I guess I should say. Some stress that you should have an exit strategy right away, and some stress, don't, necessarily just enjoy the ride and kind of go. But I don't know, you got to have some kind of balance in there. You have to have some kind of thoughts.
Yeah, we encourage people to get started early, even 3 and 5 years before they think they want to exit, because it's all about value creation. So you want to create something of value so that one day you can leave and you can receive compensation for that and be able to retire or start another business or whatever you're at in your stage of life. So it's great to start early.
Well, and none of us plan to experience anything like the story you just mentioned, but things happen all the time. Bad things happen to great people,
right.
And I tell you what, we work so hard to
right.
be where we are today in our businesses that if, it's a shame not to have all of those. And I can only imagine that things that might happen where if somebody is the lead person in control of that business, if something happens to them and they're not able to work, the company could fold.
Right. Absolutely. Very, very, very quickly. That can happen within weeks. And think about there's many businesses out there. They're doing 10 million a year in sales and greater and 25 million. But if the owner wasn't there, if he doesn't have enough of a leadership team and he doesn't have an appropriate exit plan, transition plan, it can be kind of catastrophic in terms of the value of the business and the transferring that to his family and his legacy or her legacy. So that's something I highly recommend is you start early, and there's a lot of things you can do to grow the value. If you focus on growing the value of your company, you're less worried about the sales. The gross sales don't matter as much. Other things don't matter as much. If you're creating something that's going to have sustainable value and someone's going to want to purchase that value from you one day.
Well, and it's, so as you're adding in systems and processes and really trying to build the foundation for it, I guess I'm experiencing some of this too, as I'm trying to now step back a little bit from it and trust and kind of build and get a little better at delegating, which I'm not so much at, but really trying to step back. But part of what's grown Edge in my business, and I'm sure a lot of other people can relate, is those relationships that I have made. So as I start to kind of tend to oversee and lead,
right.
how do you ensure as a business owner that you continue to instill those relationships, just as if you were to
personally doing it.
Right. How do you continue to do that as you grow?
Right. Generally, KPIs are key performance indicators, and it could be just a one-page a list of information with very specific, metrics, the key metrics that you can tell about customer satisfaction, about the revenues for the week, about certain activities that are central to your business. And as long as those metrics, that dashboard's working, then your business is probably working. And of course, you have to be engaged at some level, but over time you want to have like KPIs and the dashboard, so you can just look at that one sheet and know every week where you're at with the business.
And that goes back to processes and systems and really having that foundation. And then, what are there certain qualities and, what is your take on business partnerships? I know.
Yeah. Well, business partnerships are like marriages. they're wonderful when they work, and they're horrible when they don't, right? So,
right.
So it's very, they can be very valuable, but they can also complicate your decision making, and you could be at different points in your life. You may be willing to commit 10 years on into the business, making a relatively small salary. Your partner may be married, and they have different demands, and they want to accomplish something within 5 years, and so your risk tolerance can vary. You may be willing to take out a loan for the business, they may not be, and so there's a lot of things that can complicate it. So you really have to look carefully at the synergies. But when it works, it's beautiful. It's like butter and toast. It's an amazing thing. And so I've had some great experiences in building companies. Built BDO, ran a risk consulting division. We built it to 30 million in 3 years, and we're dropping 6 million to the bottom line. And that was, we were very different people. He was an Italian New Yorker, and I'm from the Midwest, and we came together, but we brought together the right mix of skills, and it was magic.
Well, and I keep thinking, it'd be nice to have that great relationship, especially when you look at the statistics on marriage and the statistics of divorce, and just, and again, marriage, and partnership with business being similar to a marriage personally. But so you want to, I feel like it's really important to partner with someone you really like, right?
Yes.
And that it's not just going to be really happy in the beginning. You're going to ongoing, have that relationship. But I guess you don't necessarily have to like them. I mean, if it's the right person that has the right qualities, right?
I think you have to fundamentally like each other, because if you're not willing to go on a cross-country plane ride with them, if the
there
thought
goes
of
that
sitting
theory then,
next to them in a seat for 4 hours is going to make your hair stand on end. You're going to wish you could have a good movie to watch or something. Then that's probably not a good fit, because you're going to have such intense relationships, and you have to kind of have a fondness for each other. I think you have to fundamentally like each other.
Okay, well, thanks for blowing that theory.
Sorry.
No, well, I'm just, it is difficult. You want to, and everything's so great in the beginning of most relationships, whether they're business or personal, that over time people do change, things change, the situations change, and circumstances change. So it's not necessarily one person or another that changes. Anyway, lots more to talk about with that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll get right back. We're going to talk more on business partnerships, so don't go away. We'll be right back with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
welcome back to Getting the Edge. Thanks again so much for being with us today. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. I am founder and CEO of Edge Business Magazine. We are so much more than just a magazine. We are a multi-platform media company that is specifically designed to assist small business owners with gaining visibility and influence in the community. And one of the ways we do that is sitting here right with you today on Getting the Edge. It's a great opportunity to bring in great business owners and leaders in the community and share their stories, learn from them, pick their brain a little bit, and get to know them personally as well. So if you've missed any part of the beginning of the show, go back, make sure you hit rewind and check it out. We're with Ed Valaitis. We are going to joke about this. Valaitis. I've only known Ed like 4 years. 5 years? It's actually kind of funny, but because I'm supposed to say it correctly, I'm not going to be able to. Anyway, you are one of the partners in Edison Avenue, mergers and acquisition specialist, and so we've talked quite a bit now on business partnerships, and unfortunately he shared a sad story with something that we don't, as business owners, plan on happening, but could potentially, what did I say earlier? Bad things happen to good people all the time. So anyway, make sure you have your ducks in a row and have an exit strategy, have a plan. Right before we took a break, we talked about partnerships and how they're like marriages and the statistics of them. But when you find a good one, it's really good. We did establish that. So let's say we do find the perfect partner, and then what then? How should we determine an exit strategy?
Well, what I would suggest is so that you have to know how you're going to unwind the relationship when you get into the relationship in a business partnership. So you want to have a buy-sell agreement.
So that should be determined up front initially at the beginning of the partnership.
Very much at the beginning.
So all expectations are lined out.
So you have a buy-sell agreement. So it says, well, if I want to get out of the business because something changes in my life, we decide, we've got grandkids, we want to move to California, something shifts.
Right.
Someone has a health problem. That you have a way that we agree on how we're going to leave. Otherwise, it could end up in litigation and kind of unwind and be very bad experience for both of you. But if you agree in advance and say, here's our plan, so that if one of us decides to leave, the other person has a chance to buy out their share in the business, and here's how we're going to determine the value of it. It's a really valuable way to go about it, and then it's much more organized and fair to everybody, and it can be an amicable separation rather than unwind into a negative situation, or heaven forbid, one of the partners dies. Now all of a sudden you're dealing with their spouse as the half business owner. Wow, that would change everything. They may have no skills in the business, may not understand it. So you want to know how that's going to happen.
Well, and that's why it's even
getting the profits and you're doing all the work.
Right.
So it can get very complicated. So I highly recommend a buy-sell agreement on the front side that really helps you avoid many of the potential issues of a partnership.
Well, and you'd have to almost foresee, right, all of these circumstances that could potentially be something that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why bringing an expert in or consulting with a merger and acquisitions company like yourself is key. So it's when you're you have a value initially, right? When you're in doing when you have the partnership, you create the partnership, right? And you're going to set expectations. You're going to create an exit strategy. Do you then determine a value of the company, or is that determined later, or is?
If it's an existing business that they're coming in to partner with you on, you would determine the value. If the business is a startup and nobody has any value in it yet, then projections
though, right?
But projections aren't value; they're only theory.
Gotcha. Let me ask, so everybody watches Shark Tank out there and they watch the show, and how, somebody will say, okay, well, I'm looking for $150,000 for 15% of my business. And then he says, oh, you just put your value, that's a $1 million valuation. How is that determined? What is the formula exactly for that? Or
well,
is there a formula?
There is no one formula. That's the unfortunate part. That's why you see the Shark Tank panel making different offers with different terms and conditions, because everyone views risk differently, and they may view their exit plan differently in terms of whether it's a loan to the business or it's equity investment to the business.
Right.
So all that can have a lot of variables, and if all your business is if you could have $1 million in sales, but if all your business is coming from one customer, that's very risky and not as favorable as having 10 customers with 100,000 each of sales coming to your business. So it's very complex. So typically we recommend everyone do a business valuation whether they're going into a partnership or not, or bringing in a partner or not, but do it on a regular basis. It's like getting your blood pressure checked. If you're not looking at you're doing blood work and get your blood pressure checked, you don't know the state of your business, and you don't know if you can retire or when you can retire, or if your business will ever have the net worth you need it to have so you can afford to retire. So we help people on the front side understand what that value is, and then help fix what might be broken or need to be improved so they can get to that value marker. So let's say your goal is, I want a business that's worth $3 million. That's my goal. I want it to be net worth of $3 million in my business. One day, that's my target. And so we'll help them determine where it is currently. Maybe it's worth $500,000. Maybe it's worth $1.2 million. And then what do they need to do to get there, and what's the best strategies? And there's generally 3 strategies. It's either the 3 Bs, build, buy, or borrow. You have to. And most people are very good at the building, which is the organic growth, and that's what they came into the business with, sales and marketing. But they don't know how to look at buying other businesses, and how do I effectively buy another company without having a boatload of cash, which is a misnomer. You don't always have to have a war chest to buy another business. You may be able to do it with very few dollars involved, and then you can look at the borrowing, which by that I mean franchising, alliances. Licensing arrangements, and other ways to grow your company without organic growth. And so there's those 3 aspects, and most people only use the one, which is sales and marketing they know of their products. So if you can deploy all 3 strategies, which is what private equity firms do, you can really help accelerate your growth.
That's why you see a lot of times mergers happen in between like-type businesses where they're coming together. So they've just really checked off one of those boxes then in the 3 Bs,
yes.
Because then they're building towards, and that's just that advances them a lot further in the growth strategy.
Absolutely. So if you're just growing your business with traditional sales, then it's like you're playing checkers in your business. If you start deploying the 3 Bs, then you're basically playing chess. Now you're thinking strategically, and instead of reading the Wall Street Journal or the Tampa Bay Business Journal one day and going, oh wow, look at that happen, and that situation, I should have done that, and that's because you were playing checkers and they were playing chess over here.
Right. So tell us the 3 Bs again, just so make sure we've got it.
Buy, build, and borrow are the 3 strategies to grow your business.
So as far as determining a value, there isn't, and then, okay, so when they are on and again, Shark Tank is probably not the best, but as an entrepreneur, we do watch a lot of Shark Tank, but when you're watching it, but they are based, a lot of those are very early on businesses, and all of that is projections, and who knows what actually happens after the shows, and we've talked to some people that have been on the shows, but they're obviously, everything that they're offering is based on projections, projections, right?
Right. College hunks hauling junk. They were on the show a while back too.
That's a great story.
And they did not end up getting selected, funded. They didn't reach agreement on the show, but didn't hurt them either. So
right. Well, yeah. A lot of times the show is just a great exposure. That even if that doesn't work out, you're likely to find somewhere where it does. So, how often, so let's say, you're doing the 3 Bs, you're growing your business, how often should companies have get in touch with you and have their businesses evaluated?
Generally every 24 months is a good rule of thumb. It's just getting the physical for your business, and then we not only do the valuation, but we also then provide strategies on the weaknesses and how to improve it. So it's not just someone saying, oh, we've done your physical, your blood work's out, your blood pressure's high, see you in 2 years. No, it's like, okay, here's what you can do to help fix the situation. So when I see you in 24 months, you're in a much healthier place.
Right. So you're going to help guide along the way.
Absolutely.
And can you suggest then as well, are there companies to help, like whether it's kind of merging in, if you've heard somebody maybe looking and you can kind of pair them up, and you have feelers out in the community so you know what's kind of going on? Yes,
we do that for sure. So people sometimes will retain us to help them buy other companies in their industry and kind of do a systematic search and find the competitors that are in their industry. And if you think about it right now, with the baby boomers, there's between the age of 50 and 70, there's a really big wave of people who are entrepreneurs who are going to be retiring here over the next 10 years. And that creates a huge opportunity for the entrepreneurs who are a little bit younger and say, wow, if I can buy my competitors as they're retiring, and now get my net worth, my EBITDA up, so my net worth is up, my net income is up. Now I can go and sell it for to a serious strategic buyer who might maybe a multiple of 5 or 7 or some other big number that would, make you very happy at the end of the day.
Are there, for those that are starting out that might be looking and to kind of go into a strategy like that you're talking about, do you have any strategies on or recommendations on people that are looking to obtain capital or dealing with any type of investments?
I'm not in, we have connections with the private equity community and with some angel investors and other, other potential sources of capital, and obviously know a lot of bankers in the community as well, but that's not our primary focus. We'll certainly help make the warm connections where we can.
Gotcha. Is there a certain a best time to sell? Like if somebody is looking to sell, is there a best time of the year, or is it when their business is up? Is it, if they're slow during the holidays, is that a bad time? Is there a best time to sell?
The best time to sell is when you don't need to sell.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
By that, it's like you build it to sell from the beginning, and it's, there's a book out there by the name of Built to Sell as well, and it's the point of view of just grow your business with an intention that you will sell it when the time is right. And it may not be when you think it's right. Your plan may be, I want to own this for 10 years and sell it, but in 5 years, the market might get really hot for your industry. And if you're into the bicycle shops, or you're into managed services, IT services, and the industry. And if the industry is really high demand now to acquire firms like yours, that might be your perfect swan song. So if you
perfect swan song.
If you go in there to sell,
I like that.
Yeah, if you go in there to sell with that intention and you're ready, it'll be much easier to sell when people are wanting to buy, and that's the ideal time to sell. Because when you see the storm clouds, when you're looking at your business, and you go, ooh, there's a lot of new competitors moving in, there's this negative, we're going into a recession, and you think, well, this is a good time, I think I want to sell. Those same investors also are seeing those storm clouds, and they're more hesitant to buy. Yes, they're more hesitant to buy. So you're working against yourself. You're better off going in with the mindset that I will sell, when I get the right price. So set that price on the front side and know what that looks like.
All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome back to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are at the amazing Mediterranean Cuisine, Genghis Khan, at 3114 West Beta Bay Boulevard. I have never seen such an attractive coffee cup. That Ed is enjoying Turkish coffee. So check out Genghis Khan again in South Tampa and tell him that Ed sent you. I know you see the commercials that are playing in between our pauses. We'd love to have your business featured there. If you're looking for new ways to make an impact and gain some visibility and new business in the community, reach out to us at info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. So really excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Edward.
Glad to be here.
Valaitis. I said it right? Okay, so if you watch the show, the whole show, I'm challenged with saying, and again, I've known Ed for so long, it's so funny. But he is one of the partners in Edison Avenue, mergers and acquisition specialist, and you've talked and kind of coached me through the years on different tips and strategies. And you know, being in the position that I am, I talk with business owners from all levels that are just starting out to higher level CEOs. And we've talked with Terry Blachek, who was really more of a licensing and franchising. You know, they actually took the Orange Theory thinking it was going to be just a small boutique fitness type workout, sessions, and then it turned into this worldwide. So you really don't know. And Terry and I, and even in the article or in the story that he did, you can check out some of the older issues at edgebusinessmagazine.com. But Terry talks about how he sold earlier than he really should have. He realizes now, looking back, that was kind of a mistake on his part. But kind of it goes back to what you were talking about, judging when to get out, when to sell, when he kind of thought they peaked as far as where they were going to go. He had no idea that they were going to take off from a franchise and licensing perspective with all of the Orange Theory fitnesses. So I don't know, any tips on kind of how do you strategize or how you foresee where that could potentially go?
Yeah, I mean, getting back to what he built initially too is he was following a lot of the philosophies in the book, The E-Myth,
right.
Which is about building a system, process, structure so you can duplicate what you create. That's like core to thinking of franchising or licensing and having success. With that as well. What I've seen is if you decide you develop your business, The Edge, for example, and in Tampa, and then you say, well, this would be also great in Orlando and in Jacksonville. You build your process system structure so you can duplicate it, and someone could license or franchise and end up owning in another market. Then there's some advantages to that. But when you do that, the first counsel I'd give you is to say, understand you've just started another business. So now, not only do you have your day job in this business, but you're in the franchising business. And so there's a whole nother set of rules and expectations and things you'll have to do. And so you have to do it very consciously, understanding it's going to create more workload, and so you need to make sure who's going to run this business, who's going to run that business. Make sure
the foundation is very solid.
Yes.
You have locally first, and then
right.
have the right team to help guide you.
Yeah, and we've done feasibility studies for companies who are really successful here in Tampa Bay and elsewhere, super successful in what they do, and looking at franchising, and then when we do the gap analysis and feasibility study and say, okay, what's working in your business and what areas need to be shored up, and that could be operationally, could be your IT systems, could be your sales and marketing, it could be other aspects of your operations. So you have to have them pretty well perfected before you go into franchising, because the franchisees are going to have high expectations that you figured everything out.
Already, right.
Yes, already.
You've gone through the trial and error already.
I have to follow your recipe, so you better know your recipe. So we do a gap analysis for clients sometimes and help them understand where the gaps are so they can understand what they need to fix, and then we'll help them understand what the financial costs are going to be. So you may not see any positive cash flow for a year or two or three or so until you actually start making money. So how much are you going to have to borrow or invest into this before it starts making money for you? So once you understand that, then you can make a good decision. Should I franchise? Should I not franchise? So it's a much safer way to go about it rather than jump in with both feet and then you have all these costs and expenses unanticipated.
Is there any rule of thumb as to far as how long, like even in that situation, to where you should start seeing profit?
It's too hard to generalize, but
I can imagine. Yeah, that's a very general question. But
yeah, very general. But I would say, if you do everything right in 3 years, That's probably a reasonably conservative bet.
Okay. Looking at different certifications and things that you go through as a merger and acquisitions, what are the advantages of like being an International Business Brokers Association, the IBBA? What that stands you apart then from others?
So we're members. It's the national organization that represents the highest level of professionalism in the business, and we're also certified merger and acquisition professionals as well. So we, at the end of the day, it's about trust, and caring. So we, clients, we have to earn their trust, and we have to, care about, delivering for our clients. And my father comes from an entrepreneurial background, and I've seen far too many companies that have lost their value. So they were great business, and they liquidated without anybody ever cashing out that value. And giving it, putting their savings account or whatever, but they diminished, they got get close to retirement, they got tired, they were distracted, and then the business declines, and so you destroy that value that was created. So the business was worth $1 million, and by the time we were ready to sell, it's worth nothing, and they're basically selling the furnitures and fixtures.
That's why it's so important to get with somebody like yourself that can really guide and that cares. And that can, you can trust. You have to have that relationship, and you need somebody that, we work a lot of hours, and we put pretty much our life is.
It is, and that's your 401k plan. So you want that to pay off. That's your IRA. So you want it to work for you. So it's so important. And there are some incredible attorneys and CPAs I work with, but there are many that don't understand valuations, and many that don't understand transactions. And so you have to be really selective about who you work with.
Right. Well, you'd mentioned your father being an entrepreneur. So and you'd also mentioned the Midwest. So tell me a little bit. And I've known you for a long time. I feel like I should know more about your background. Where are you from originally?
So my parents came over on the boat via Ellis Island with their parents and all that. So they were refugees from World War II, and so they they were started out in New York and then migrated to Cleveland, Ohio, and my parents happened to both be Lithuanian and happened to meet as teenagers and fall in love. So we grew up in Cleveland, then moved to Florida about 15 years ago. And in the meantime, though, I've had a chance to work across the country. So I was with Deutsche Bank and with BDO and other firms, and I've done. So I was living in San Francisco for a while, in Boston and New York. So we've had a little bit of a whirlwind, but we love Florida and Tampa Bay. We're extremely bullish. This is the place to be.
Well, especially after you lived in Cleveland for so how many years were you in Cleveland?
Too many.
Wow. Just now we are in the lovely warm, well, it's not so warm today, it's a little chilly for us anyway, but great Tampa Bay. I grew up in Indianapolis, so I don't even know how I handled the colder weather then. It was funny, I was with a gentleman on Friday that was in from New York, and we were really cold. We've been cold the last few days, and of course it's cold all over the country, but for Tampa it's been cold, and he kind of joked, and he saw people running around in coats and boots, and he said, "What is wrong with you people?" But it's funny, you can always tell who the tourists are, because they're the ones in flip-flops and shorts when it's freezing outside, because all of us, the Floridians, are in warm clothes. So anyway, just some trivia about Tampa. Your father was an entrepreneur. What business was he in?
He had landscape architecture and landscaping. So.
Oh, okay. In Cleveland? Yeah. I was going to say, because that would be tough, right, to have a landscape business, because it could really only be
actually, it's a beautiful thing.
Seasonal?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I guess so, because then you get extra time off.
You have your winters off. But he did snow plowing in the winters, so he kind of offset it some. But you do have a lot more time off in the winters. So but you work very, very hard during the season, because you have to make all your money in those 9 months.
So I always ask, were you encouraged to dream as a child? Did he try to instill in you that you can do anything you want, and that you can own your own businesses someday?
He absolutely did. He definitely instilled a really strong work ethic, and so I knew what it was like at 11, 12 years old to work till your bones ached. So I learned that very early, and I think that's really served me well. And so when I went on, and I've been both an entrepreneur and an employee. When I've been an employey, I thought, is this it? It's this easy? Because I was so used to, being, the owner's son and having to work twice as hard. Right.
No, it's a totally different experience, right? Have you ever had to raise capital for your own businesses?
I haven't, given the nature of the work I've done. It's mostly been in in professional service related. So it's been in doing risk consulting businesses. I've had a collection agency, which was financially oriented, and so I've been fortunate that I haven't had to do that route.
Okay, so if you had to go back in time, let's say 25 years, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would probably say take more risks and strike out earlier. So I worked for Deutsche Bank in commercial banking, and I've been a partner in a CPA firm, and I did high-end risk consulting and strategy consulting for the likes of Textron and Morgan Stanley and many other financial service companies in Manhattan. So, but I was doing it. I was applying that creativity and those efforts on behalf of another company. So I probably would have said strike out earlier and
do it sooner
and take the risk. And I saw the risks of that my father took and their struggles at times when the recessions would hit. And so I was a little risk averse early on and didn't take the risk.
Right. Well, maybe that is one of the disadvantages of growing up with a parent or parents that were self-employed, because you've experienced more and kind of have seen firsthand, maybe not knowing exactly what was going on, but you were aware enough that to be apprehensive maybe in regards to going out on your own.
When the bill collectors would call when I was 10 years old, I was very aware.
Oh, really? Wow. That's interesting, but a great perspective, I guess. You do learn early on, maybe of what's going on. So you were really involved in the business. They didn't try to shield you from any of that.
And so I was the only son, and so I was there heavily involved, and so I was involved in working every summer and every weekend and putting in the 12, 14-hour days, which were really common in that business. And then so I was very aware of what was going on and try to help where I could. But I also saw that they, at one point during a recession, they had gone quite upside down and were in deep trouble, but they worked back out all their debt and fully paid all their debts off. So I learned the value of hard work and the value of keeping your word.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to learn more about Ed when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Getting the Edge.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited and learning all about businesses and acquisitions and everything we need to do to create a great positive exit strategy with my great friend, Ed Valaitis. Right? No?
Valaitis.
All right. This is like an ongoing joke now. Okay, well, I just met Ed. No, I'm kidding. That's even worse. I've known you for so long. Okay, well, the show's just about over, so maybe I'll get it eventually. You were at an event with me, and I had to introduce you somewhere. And do you remember, like, us going through the same thing at the event? Yeah. Oh, you spoke. I think you. I don't remember. It's been you've been involved a lot, and I appreciate your support over the years with Edge. But you know, and this is kind of great because you've kind of helped and guide me in regards to Edge with you know, anything in regards to business acquisitions and strategy with business, but never really gotten a chance to know you. So if you've missed any part of the show, make sure you hit rewind, go back, and we talked a lot about the 3 B's, which were the 3 B's?
Buy, build, and borrow.
Buy, build, and borrow, and how important it is to buy, build, and borrow. So make sure that you check out that information. That's great advice too. And how can people contact you if they have any questions or need some help with strategy?
Website is edisonavenue.com or 800-975-2114. Either one works.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely. I highly recommend Edison Avenue and Ed. So make sure if you have any questions in regards to mergers and acquisitions, you reach out and anything you need to know. So we have a few more minutes, so definitely want to get to know you a little bit better. What is your definition of success today?
Living a life that your idealistic child you would be proud of.
That's a good one, right? Yeah. It's, you know, it's interesting trying to kind of keep that instilled within us too, as we are in adults and we're in our everyday lives, and that's a great advice. What is, has there been one lesson that you've tried to learn throughout life? It's kind of been the toughest lesson that for you to learn?
Probably listening to your inner voice in all your decisions, because you have your brain and you have your heart, but your heart ultimately has the right answers for you.
Right.
Because your answers are different than someone else's answers.
Absolutely.
And your brain is an incredible, powerful computer calculator, but your heart will guide you on the right path on almost every decision.
So like your heart, instincts, gut, all of that, right? What advice did you deal with a lot with people that are just starting out? I'm thinking, I mean, you're really helping them towards the end, but what advice would you give to those that are starting their own business today?
I think the first thing to do is do some deep self-reflection and find somebody who is in business, who can really be a mentor to you and give you some good advice as to whether you should go into your own business or not, because it's really not for everybody. And also understand both the glamour of it and you know, the curse of it. You know, and so you're responsible for the cash flow every day, and yet you can take any time off you want because you're the boss. So there's pluses and minuses, but I would say there's also some great personality assessments out there. One's called a color code, for example, is one of the great assessments. There are others too that can help you figure out your own temperament and what you're suited for.
Yeah, that's great advice. What might people be surprised to know about you?
I jumped off a perfectly good mountain in Switzerland. I'm paragliding off the Schilthorn in Lauterbrunnen Valley, so that was quite the adventure. My daughter talked me into it. I didn't plan on doing it, but it was an amazing experience to glide through the snow-covered peaks and come down to a grassy field with cows. In Switzerland, every cow has their own custom cow bell. Every cow literally has their own bell. Like, that's how much they cherish their cows. So it was interesting. Interesting.
So is there a certain elevation of the mountain?
Yeah, I don't recall what that was. I believe it had to be somewhere around 14,000 feet, I would say.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's something very surprising to know. Do you jump out of planes also? Do you have?
No, I haven't done that, but I've rafted down the Grand Canyon, so if that counts.
Oh, really cool. So what was that? That's like a terrifying experience.
Yeah, there are moments. They actually have pink rattlesnakes, and it's incredible. You have to
pink rattlesnakes.
Pink rattlesnakes.
Okay. That's something to look out for.
You have to watch out for flash floods and all kinds of
Right.
other
Yeah. It
things.
looks again as business owners and entrepreneurs, we're all about conquering fears.
Yeah.
So it's such an adrenaline rush. I think once you accomplish something and you get past the fear part. So always don't let fear stop you. Favorite quote? You have a favorite quote? I love quotes.
Favorite quote.
I always mess them up, kind of like your last name.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I love quotes.
Now I don't know who the author of this one is, but I think it has merit, which is you can't read the label on a bottle from the inside, and that applies to us as entrepreneurs.
Right.
Oftentimes we're so embedded in our business that we can't see the forest through the trees, and so you need that outside advice, counsel to help you see perspectives and angles you can't see yourself.
That's good. You mentioned the E-Myth earlier. Are there other books that how do you continue to grow? Like, what do you suggest as a leader? Like, what works for you?
Good to Great is an awesome book. I read the Bible cover to cover one year. I did it for so this is my year commitment, and that was also phenomenal. And many other books, but.
And you're involved in a lot within the Tampa area. What are some of the organizations that you're involved with?
I'm on the advisory board for the University of Tampa's
Okay.
business school for the Leadership Advisory Board. So we have a leadership summit actually coming up here in a couple of weeks. So that's going to be real exciting.
Right. That is really my goal this year, and it's all about time management too. But I'd love to get more involved. And I think you mentioned too. Dictating, being a business owner, you dictate your own business, but it's so hard to take off any time or to trust everyone, and that's again just all the things that we have to work on as business owners to get to the point where we do step back and we delegate. That's my goal this year. What's the best advice? Had somebody, even your father or somebody throughout your life, given you some advice, and it was literally the best advice you've ever been given?
Probably the best advice I've ever been given was from my grandmother, and they had come over from the old country, so they had lost everything during World War II, so they lost their home. My grandmother never saw her parents again because they couldn't go back because the Cold War started and Russia, USSR took over, big swath of Europe for 50 plus years. So there was all that, and so what she would say is one of the smartest and toughest women I ever knew as well. Her nickname was Muna, but Ursula was her real name. But she said the only thing you ever own is what's in between your ears. Everything else can be taken away from you.
Your mind, pretty much, at that point.
Yes. Yeah, what you learn, your skills, your abilities, everything else is transient.
That's great advice too. And so Lithuania, you mentioned old country, but Lithuania, right? Is that in both sides of the family? Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you ever seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding,
right?
That was our story too, with Grandma and Babushka. Neighbors didn't understand her. It was very.
Did you use
very
Windex?
Yeah. Missed out on that one.
Yeah, that was a great movie. I can imagine too, just having that big kind of, you have a big family then, I would assume too.
Decent size, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. What is one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?
I would say empathy.
I would have to agree with you.
You have to understand your employees and your customers, pain.
It's funny because I do ask about exit strategy a lot. So obviously, I was going to say, how important is it to have one?
Right.
100%.
100%. I think you should early on go into it. So if you want to decide you need a net worth of $2 million to retire, or $5 million, or $10 million, or $1 million, whatever that number might be for you, understand that on the front side and start measuring against it. And you do that with doing evaluation, with doing a growth strategy analysis to understand how you can help get there, what you need to fix about your business and improve, and nothing better than holding yourself accountable and keep going back to that so you know whether you're going to hit your target. That's like having a 401k or an IRA, never opening your statements for 20 years, and then in 20 years you're going to open up and see if you can retire. That's
a little scary.
Too late to find out. You want to find out as you go.
Right. How do you determine, there's so many business products and everybody has an idea. How do you determine like, so people that might be watching the show that might have a great idea of starting a business, how do they determine whether or not, you talk about feasibility studies, like how do you determine if the market definitely can use your product and if it will be successful?
I don't specialize in the startup world per se, but I would, there was a General Patton's bit of advice was really, really helpful, I think, and that is a good plan executed today is better than a perfect plan executed tomorrow. So if you've got a business idea or concept, and sometimes the only way to know is to actually hit the market with it, and the market will tell you very quickly whether they like it or don't like it, and make adjustments as you need to, or stop.
Right. Well, I guess you can always look at competition too, and who else is doing what you're considering doing, and how are they doing it, and how is it going to be different from that product, right?
Right.
Right. So a lot of things to think about and I know because you're mostly handling relationships and growing relationships as they're leading towards the exit, or molding them. We talked about how important it is to really kind of the touch points, really to how often should your company be evaluated?
Every 24 months is a good rule of thumb, and it's evaluation plus. So it's evaluation plus guidance, correction on how to increase the value.
Right. Well, that's a lot of great advice.
Yeah.
And let's tell us again how everyone can get in touch with you.
EdisonAvenue.com or 800-975-2114. Happy to have a complimentary conversation with myself or one of my partners and see if we can be of service.
Great. Again, Ed has been very helpful along the way and just asking questions here and there, and I look forward to developing more of an exit strategy as I go. But just a lot of great information, so thank you. It was great learning a little bit kind of behind the scenes. We always talk business, so it's great getting to know more about Cleveland and Lithuania. I'm not sure that I knew that.
Another Midwesterner.
Yes, good people, definitely. Definitely check out edgebusinessmagazine.com for more information on the show. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Getting the Edge.